I doing?
Hi everybody, welcome. This is Kate Quinn from Fabricated Quilts, and I'm here representing Sew Steady products, and Westerly Design is a big part of that. So a lot of the templates we're using today are products of Westerly Design. If you can hear me and if you can see everything well, if the camera work looks fine to you, could you please let me know, and that way I'll get ready to go on and let some people sign in while we wait just a moment. This panel is not currently available for purchase. This was a test panel that was printed up by Sew Steady. So we're still feeding information to the powers that be on whether or not you would like it. And so far, some of the comments I have was they really like it. We have another one that is similar, that's red, white, and blue. And one of the big comments was that they would really like it if it didn't have the logo on it, because then you could just use it as a regular quilt. So I am passing on that information to the staff so that they can decide what they want to do, whether or not it's cost effective. All of those things have to be all figured out. But I think it's really great opportunity for us to actually quilt on a block so that you can see the path. And so I did practice this a little bit, so hopefully it'll all work out. Yes, Jane and Sally, hello to your puppy. Honey is here with me, so he's going to be helping out. He might have to be switching off a little bit because he does have things in the kitchen he's monitoring, but he's here. So let me start off with what are we doing right off the bat. So as far as you can see right here, this part of this block is not yet quilted, and there's no outline quilting on this side. It's actually outline quilted on the back, but what we will do along the back here is we'll actually just stitch over what's already stitched. So the very first template that we're going to use is from the Flower Power set, and let me grab my liner behind there. Okay, so we'll just put it up so you can see. It's upside down, sorry. Ha! You see I got my handle on there today, and I do like to use that when I'm working on my long arm, but it's also great on a domestic machine. It's just that the hand holding is very different on the long arm, and this gives me just a little bit of an edge to be able to have a lip so that I can put some pressure on there. Donna Dean, he is making teriyaki chicken from scratch. He is such a good cook, and we're having the whole family over because I've got 2 of my nephews in town. This one from the Flower Power set is 8 inches by 2.5. I like it because of all of these lines, and one of the designs that we're going to do really maximizes the use of these lines right there. So this is going to allow me to make some longer lines, and what we're going to do right away is we're going to ditch this block, because if I had this block and I was trying to emphasize all of the patchwork that I have took all of this time to do, right, on my pre-printed panel, but you know, if you're piecing this at home, that's a lot of work to do that block and to get all these points all nice and everything like that. So if we are quilting this up, we might want to ditch all of these triangles and really allow them to shine. There is a unique pathway that we can use here so that we can go around the block with maximum efficiency. So on one of these areas right here, there's a set of 3. If I start and I go like this, I can start and I can go across and I end up here, and I can travel up and over like that, and up and over and do the triangle, and then I'll go around and look where I'm at, right? So we started right at this position, and basically then this is all quilted, including outlining right here. So then we end up on this, and we would just repeat that all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and do that first, and that'll just really show a lot of the movement that we have to do. How do we reposition this backwards, forwards, side to side? And the path is well thought out to be as continuous as possible. So that's really some of the goal here for this today. So let's go ahead and we'll start right in this area. I am using 12 stitches per inch. My machine is regulated for people that might want to know that if you're a long armor. when I'm on my domestic machine, typically I don't have the lucky ability to select 12 stitches per inch. I just do the best I can. So right now, this line, but right here behind the foot, I'm going to line up the ruler right on the foot and on the back, essentially at 1/4 inch. I'm going to show you the hand position here. I've got hands on this and I've got some fingers off. I don't want to put too much downward pressure here because then the machine cannot move. As I'm looking through the opening right here, as the foot is going backwards, I'm really concentrating that if my needle seems like it's shifting a little too much left or right, I can use this right here and push in, or I can use my thumb on this side and pivot this just a little bit this way to move the line so that I get a really nice clean ditch right here. Okay, so right there, I'm at the end point of the triangle, and I would just rotate. My thumb right here just helps me move right along, right up to the tip. Try to be as accurate as possible. And then right here, I do want to come down right where I left off so they have a nice clean pathway. So when I take those first couple of stitches, I want to double check and make sure I'm in the line of stitching. So as I get over here, I can just continue moving around. So this is kind of quite a bit of stitching to go around this block. So what we'll do is, as we're sewing, we'll go ahead and answer questions. Now I want to show you right here, look at how far away I am from my fingers. Like this is the top of my hand and this is out in front. So right now, this finger is actually pushing this way to make sure that that's against that foot. But you can also choke up a little bit and give yourself a little bit more pressure closer to your foot. That's very important. So let's just keep going. We'll try to kind of get around this a little bit quickly. And you're just constantly manipulating the path. I want to try to have a nice smooth line right here. So as I'm coming into these connections or right there at the top, that's where I want to pay special attention, because on the back, if I don't, it may not show on the front very much, but let's say my back is actually white. So if I have some misconnections on the back, it'll be very visible, I think. So a couple stitches right off the bat, a little choking up as we go along, making sure I have good pressure. Okay. And maybe one extra stitch right there where I shifted over just a little bit to help get me in the line of stitching. Don't be afraid to adjust as you're going. If you see that you need that adjustment, don't wait until you're already off of the line. Go ahead and let yourself get back on the line quickly and make that adjustment as you're moving. It's okay. It's a little bit easier to actually tip the ruler, I think, with this, because we're not really moving this at all. This quilt sandwich is stable, so if I shift the ruler a little bit, nothing is happening to the quilt. And that's something that is different from the domestic machine. If I shift on the domestic, I can a little bit, but I'm also got to really be careful that I'm not moving the sandwich if that's my intention, is to move the ruler, because typically these two work together when you're on a domestic. Okay, so right now this is all quilted up, all of these, including this ditching right here. And now we'll just keep on going. It's a little bit of a different angle. So let me show you right now. From where I am, I cannot see this very well, right? I cannot actually see if my foot is aligned. But now I can. So that's just a little bit different. So I need to make sure that I've got the pressure here. You know, I may stitch a little bit this way, kind of come down the line, and then maybe move my hand a little bit just to make sure that I'm right in that line. Okay. Visibility is really important with rulers, and because of the camera, I've actually got this rolled up quite a bit. So there's actually about 12, maybe 14 inches right here in this space. Typically, if you're working with rulers, you want to bring your work much closer to you so you're not leaning out in front of you when you're working on your long arm frame. So let's go ahead. We'll just continue on our process right here. And now we're on this next one. Again, I think I'll put it back here just so I have a little better visibility, and maybe adjust my position right there so I can get right across the tip of that. Okay. So some people might ask, you know, I'm not using my spacing gauge. If you are working on a smaller quilt and you're able to really choke up to it and be really close to it, well, that's great. I think it's a little bit harder on this because number one, you have to put it so much further away from your body. And if I'm doing a king size quilt, precision is really less of an issue for me. I've got probably 5,000 connections, so approximating seems a little bit more efficient in terms of time. So your perfection quotient is going to be something that you have to determine what your tolerance is. And I'll tell you that the more that you do it, the more efficient that you're going to be, and you won't need as many things to help you. So let's go ahead. It's getting a little far away from my body, so we're going to just kind of go a little bit slower here because I'm a little bit further out in front. It's a little bit harder for me to control just because everything's much further away and I'm leaning over a little bit. Okay, and now some of this area at the back, as I said, has already been ditched. So what I'm going to try to do is be right in the ditch as much as I can, as good of a alignment as possible so that I can really do a good job here. All right, let's see what we got. So yeah, I think you can maybe see some chords in here. Don't worry, it's just my speaker. All right, so we'll go a little slow right here, try to get right in the exact ditch, right with the other thread. And the purpose of that is then on the back, it's going to look much better, right? So we'll do the same thing. We're going to continue working. And so now you'll notice that my hand position is going to be different as we work on this one. So I'm on this side, and visibility-wise, I can be on probably either side. So if I need good visibility on this side, I'll move the ruler over. Okay, and then right here, just getting myself right up to that next grouping. Okay, I'm going to use whatever I can to make sure that I can see very well. Okay, so back here, I want to be able to see, so I'm going to put it right behind and just try to go right down that ditch as best I can. So there, I'm a little bit off. So I just made a little adjustment, kind of used the ruler to give a little bit of pressure so that it didn't just kind of go everywhere. Okay. Okay, and then we'll just come up to the top. Again, trying to get right in that ditch with those other threads as best I can. So I think sometimes people think that rulers take a long time. I've heard many people say that. And you can see that we'll have this block ditched pretty fast. I mean, truthfully, it's not that hard to do it, but practice is the key. So I can easily manipulate the rulers and just move it around. And that's because I have done that a little bit more than perhaps some other people. So taking that time to practice is going to help you be more efficient. Okay, so here we'll come right in, right across that little ditch right there and connect our dot. And you can see if I'm adjusting my hand, it's because visually I feel like maybe my line needs a little bit of movement in order to stay right on that seam allowance right there. So as we're kind of coming forward, we're getting a little close. This is kind of getting close to the camera. So we'll just be watching for that so we can make sure we still can sew smoothly without any problems. Okay. I always stop when I'm repositioning. I always stop the needle. Okay. It's very important to me that I do that because I don't want anything happening that I don't directly control. So as we're here, I'm going to take a stitch up so I can get in that yellow ditch right there, right to the top. And then we'll just close this. And as we come around the corner, now right here is my starting space. Everything on here is ditched now. Every triangle is fully ditched. The bases are all ditched, and the lines all the way around the outside are also completely ditched in. At this point, so that I can really get right to there, it is possible I would grab out my spacing gauge so that I can close my line nice and clean. If I'm out too far in front of my hand, I'll choke up a little bit so I can get right there. And then here, just tack a few extra stitches, right? My machine has a button on it right here that is a needle up down, and if I hold it, it'll do what I call needle walk, and that way I can use that to tack off. Right now I've pulled it away to lengthen my bobbin thread, and when I bring it back and I line it right up where I left off, when I needle down and up, it's going to pick up that bobbin thread for me, which is right here in this finger, and when I can cut all of that off, and I'm totally tied in. So that stitch is tied off. And this whole design now is completely ditched in. All right, so let's see if we can show you a little bit closer, right? So you can see right here, everything is ditched. All of this right here at this triangle. So just kind of move that out of the way a little bit. I think there's like some little color dots on there. Looks like a little stain right there, but can you see that? So it looks pretty good. We did a good job. We can leave it just like that if we want to, or we can put some more in there if we want to. I'm going to go ahead and come out a little bit, and we're going to put a fun little design here in the center. Let me go ahead and just grab that next template. I'm just going to anchor my long arm so it doesn't run away, and we'll grab another tool. All right, so the next tool that I want to use is the curly Q. You can use different sizes. I'm going to tell you what I looked at when I was deciding what size that I wanted. Okay, what I want to do is kind of go across the diagonal, and I'll show you what I mean by that when we put it on the quilt. There's a particular space that it's going to go, and I needed it to be long enough to cross that and be able to position it, and then I didn't want this part to be too tiny. So let me show you some of the other curly Qs. If I went down any smaller than this, let me show you some sizing. Pat, can you, right under those stickers right there, just hand me that little stack. Okay, these are the smaller ones that are smaller than the size that I've chosen already. And if you look, the little circle part of the curly Q starts getting really, really small. And I didn't want that. I wanted a little bigger portion of a curly Q. So even if the length is too long for the space, I can manipulate that and shorten it, but I wanted a bigger curl. So these were not big enough. So I moved up a little bit, so I'm at 5.5. So there's a wide variety of sizing that you can choose. You're not limited. The curly Q sets come with multiple sizes. I think there are 6 pieces in each set or so. I have marked right here, so let's see if we can get in just a little closer so I can show you just a little tighter. The center dot right there, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to use my 8-point crosshair square, my mini, and just mark the plus here so I can see right where the center is and just have some visual reference lines. So this is the small crosshair square, and Patrick, I set down my purple marker. Oh, goodness sakes, I thought I had it right here. I don't know where it went. I need a colored one in that little box. Perfect, perfect, thank you, dear. See? God, thank the Lord he's here today. As always, he's always awesome. All right, so I'm just going to line that up. I want this opening right there to try to cross those intersections of the block. And so I'm just going to, well, I guess I said I needed the plus, right? And I'm not looking for perfection, right? I mean, I would try to do this a little bit more perfect if I was using this for spin effects or something like that. But basically what I'm trying to get really is the cross, and I'll show you why we need that. What we're doing is we're going to line up something from there to there. And if you wanted to be, you know, more precise than that, you could even mark that if you wanted to. This is the line that we're looking for right there. And it should be a straight line pretty much to this other side, but remember that fabric does move around, so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for this line right here. Now, when I do it, I'm going to do two opposite sides first, right? Because I think that they're going to kind of touch somewhere in there, and then the ones on this alternate side may be a little bit shorter. Let's see if I can get my line marked in there real quick. Right there. That's what we're looking for. I can't see because it's too far back there. Here we go. Now you can see better too. So we're just going to mark this right there. And that's just to help us line up, because the markings on the curly Q do have a straight reference line. So if we can use that, that's just going to make it a little bit easier for us to see as we line things up. All right, so I'm going to remove several tools that I have on here that I'm not using. Always clean up your workstation with your long arm. Don't leave stuff on there. If you roll up your long arms, sometimes those tools can get rolled up in there, or they can slide under things if you haven't basted. So I do try to keep my workspace very, very clean when I'm working with my long arm, and keep track of tools so that I don't accidentally suddenly find that it's under there somewhere when I hit it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to line this up. I'm going to flip it over. I can use it either way, so I think maybe we'll use it this way. I think I like that better. And I'm just going to try to line it up so that the tail right here is at this corner, and I'm going to sew in and kind of back up there. We may have to move around. I don't necessarily want to stitch all the way around that, so we're just going to jump stitch, okay? So very easy, and of course, very nice here. I can just go like this, no big deal, and get my needle set right where I want to. Pick up your bobbin thread, and we'll go ahead and tack off before we set the ruler in place. Just put a few tacking stitches, try to move a little bit, try not to put them right in exactly the same spot. So this right now, I'm going to line it up on the line that we made, and it's a little bit shy of the center, which I wanted. I don't want it to cross over, so I'm just going to make it fit in there as best as you can. Put that little purl, and then just come back. Okay? And you could do more if you wanted to fan out, but right now we're going to kind of make a 4-patch with these little guys. Okay? So I'm going to cut this right now. Okay? We tacked it in. I'm going to cut it. So this design, obviously not continuous, right? And that's okay. I'm fine with that. Some people really hate that, but I want the design that I want, so I'm okay to let it be not continuous. Okay? We're doing opposite sides, and there is a reason for that. Like, why are we not going around clockwise or anti-clockwise? Because, I'll show you. And let's see. We did it this way. So I want it to kind of mirror that. I want it to go around in a circle. So let's get these little threads out of there. So I'll line it up, and again, lining it up on that center line. And these will not touch each other. So just go around as best I can, and then gently going back around. Now, the key is that I want to control the long arm right there, okay? So when we're coming around these little parts, I'm holding this gently, but I'm not trying to push the long arm into it. I'm using both of them pushing together. I'll try to show you that when I do the next one, but let's go ahead and we'll tack this off a little bit so we can cut it. Okay. All right, and now these are taking up a certain amount of space. Let's see if we can get you in there tighter so you could see it, right? So they don't touch, but they're right in the center, which means if I don't want the next one over here to cut into these, it's going to be pushed down a little bit. So that's why I did these two first. They'll be sort of that center anchor, and then whatever space is left right here, that is what is going to be taken up by this. So when we position this, we're going to make sure we don't cut in, but we can still use the same center line to line everything up. So that's what we'll do right now. We'll come out just a little bit so you can see a little bit more of it as we go. My arm is in the way. I understand. That's just how it is with the long arm. I did not have a good needle position there, so I'm just going to pick my thread up a little bit. I guess my view is off. I'll have to stand a little more straight right there. Every time that I moved my foot away, I could tell that my needle was in the yellow and not where I wanted it, right in this little corner there. Okay, so let's align it. We again want to be in this same direction. You can choose to go a different direction, that's up to you, but I don't want to. So I'm going to use my center position, and what I want is, I just want a little gap right there. So I'm going to make the edge of the plastic here touch these ones right here. Then the distance away will be 1/4 inch. I could make it tighter if I want to. I could push it up a little bit so that it's just a little bit less than 1/4. That's one thing you can use your spacing gauge for. If you want the gap to be a little bit, you could use one of these. I could actually come over here and I could just put this on there like this and say, okay, that's my spacing now. I'm not using 1/4 inch, I'm 1/8. So it's a little tighter. And what that means is that when I sew it, it's just going to be in a little closer to the existing design. Okay. All right, so what do you think so far? Do you like it? Let's go ahead and we'll just tack this off and we'll do that last one. Because the Friendship Star is not a square and it's got those longer diagonals, I do think it's hard to put something like a spinifex in there or something like that. So I'm usually going to try to figure out something else that emphasizes this shape rather than using that other one. And then if this is not enough quilting, I can use this or a bigger curly Q right along the back here, and I can put a little echo where it touches that, and that would be where you stop. So we may do that. We'll check that out when we get a little further along. All right, so I'll check in with Honey and see if we have any questions at this point. I do love these curly Qs. They're so adorable. Okay, keeping it the correct direction. I do feel like I want to look all the time. So again, we'll use that same measure. We'll use this little 1/8. So we don't use that very much, but I thought that that would make it so it can kind of come up a little bit closer, but I can still be very, very sure that it is not going to cut into that existing design. So right here, nice and easy, go around that curly Q, and then just coming back. So I didn't have very good pressure down here at the bottom, so I'm actually going to adjust my hand position so that I can have that. All right. So what do you think? We'll try to make it so you can hone in on that part right there. Isn't that cute? Right now, all of those markings, of course, are on there, and they're going to stay on there probably for a little bit. Let's see if I can grab one of the larger curly Qs. They're on the top of the white thing. There's like 10 of them right there, a bunch of them. They're just right on top. Just grab a bunch of those. We're just going to grab a random bigger one, and then we're just going to go ahead and put the little echo in here just to fill in that space. But I think we need a little bit bigger one to be on the outside. So we use the 5.5, so I think we'll use the 6.5 if I can find it. Yeah, great. Thank you, babe. That'll just give us a little bit of space. We can kind of just use it like this. If we line this up right there, we can just put a little echo in there and we can go around. So, well, this one doesn't have as big of an opening, right? I don't know what the deal is for that one. It's interesting that opening on there is a little different than the other one. Okay, so let's scoot up just a tiny bit. We're only going to just scoot up until the foot is touching the line that we already sewed. So we'll get these out and then we'll just kind of echo that line, just like that. This can be the alignment right there. And he can just come in and close the design. So what do you think? Do you like that? I'm going to just pull this out so we can see what it looks like. And again, if we want to, probably the easiest way if we're going to echo would be just to go ahead and ditch around until the foot's touching on this side. So we can go ahead and just do that right now. So that does mean we're going to have more stitching on the back. So we want to kind of control for that a little bit. As we come down here, I'm looking for the foot to touch right here, and then I can put this back on. With this one, if I have to lift up the foot, I have to make sure that I have my needle in the up position. So I always do that. Otherwise, there's really not enough room for me to do that. So here, this is going to be the 1/4 inch. This would be what we could echo on the inside. Let's see, do I like that? I'm not sure if I like that or not. Oh, we'll just do it, right? Who cares? We'll just go until we touch, and then we'll just come back out. I don't know, what do you think? I think I don't like that. I think I'm only going to echo on the outside, and I'll rip that out. Let's just go ahead and tack it off. Does that ever happen to you? You're like, oh, what happened? I don't really like that. Yes, it happens to everybody. We all do that. Don't be afraid of that. It's okay. That's how you know that you don't like that. Sometimes I think that we just feel like, okay, we sewed that, so we have to accept it now. No, we don't. I'm going to rip that out. I don't like how it cuts into my curly Q. So we'll do the echoes only on the back side, and they'll stop right there, and only on the back side. I think that's going to look a lot better. So again, that would necessitate us perhaps cutting our threads each time so that we have a nice clean look right there. I'm going to just tack it a couple more times, give me a little tacking stitches. Put my needle down. Oh, again, I need those nice big openings like on that other one. I'm not sure why they don't have the big opening. Needle down, and then let's get aligned. This part right here is giving us the space. We can align the inside of this curly Q right on the existing line, and then we're just going to sew in until we touch this curly Q and sew back out. Okay, and then I'll tack it off because I don't want to sew all the way around just for that.
So Pat asked a question, do you stand or sit when you roll or quilt, and specifically on your long arm?
So absolutely, I stand. I stand. Some people sit. I know that people do. I don't feel like I have as good a control that way, but you know, there are people that just have to sit. Maybe they just cannot stand for that long. So there's no rule about that. It's really about what you're comfortable with. I really like this line coming in here to the curly Q. I think it looks kind of like a heart that's interrupted and hopping out. Let's go ahead and do this one on the back side of these two, and then we'll just evaluate the design when we're done. Remember that we're putting our foot so that it's touching the stitch line a 1/4 inch away, so we have to be in the ditch right there. Right there. And I'm going to leave my needle up so I can put this on. Okay. So when I do that, I'm trying to be careful not to shift my long arm so much because I want that needle right in the same spot. So if it does move, just adjust that before you get going. Remember what we said, this part right here will align, and then we want to make sure that we close it on this existing one. So I'm going to push mine down a little bit so that this fits, but there's not too much space because I don't want to miss my little curly Q on that side. I want to touch it. Okay, and then we'll tack it off. Just a couple of tacking stitches. And then I'm going to answer a question that maybe did not get asked, but people will say things like, oh, would you really, do all of that? Yes, you guys know I would. If I was here quilting all day, I'd be like the happiest clam in the world. Maybe Honey wouldn't be as happy, but I would be. right? He'd be like, come on, honey, it's time for dinner. Stop that. All right, he keeps me fed and happy, right? So don't you think this looks kind of cool with this little echo on there? And again, I would take this out. I think that kind of interrupts the design, but I love it. And we'll just put this last one in there. And it does really make the shape of the friendship star stand out. It's a nice accent for this, and it softens all of these straight lines a little bit. So I knew that when I was doing it, I wanted something that was a little bit curvier. And this was what I came up with. I have lots of options that I could use. I don't, have to use any particular thing. I have a lot of different templates. And so if you have some different choices, that is something that's nice because it lets you have some different choices. So here, just make it touch. Goes right to the existing design. And then we'll come back out and we'll tack it off. All right. And then we're done. Let's cut all these little guys. I have a lot of little loose threads there. Okay. I can see I got a little couple threads right there that I need to take off. But what do you think? Do you like that? So try to imagine it without this line, right? You know me, I'm not going to rip in class. So anyway, but I do think that looks kind of cool. I like how this comes in. And maybe on this side, maybe you do another curlicue, perhaps. Maybe if this space is too much, make it so that you have 1/4 inch and the curlicue cuts right across that. I think that would look actually really cute. So that might be an idea. Donna Dean, if you use a smaller template for the echo, wouldn't it give you more curve, more movement? It actually doesn't, because we lined it up so that it's actually 1/4 inch away from the existing. Like when I put this on, let me see if I can put it back on. I lined it up like this. So if you look right here, the spacing, it's 1/4 inch, right? So it should track pretty much right along what you already have. It widens out just a little bit here, but not always, and that's just based on me and how I positioned it. So this is very, very similar to that curve, and it's going to just mimic it based on how I placed it. Let's see what that other question is. Curlicue to make mini hearts in the center. Yeah, Rosie, I think that's a good idea too. Endless options for sure. So many different choices. So let's go next to, I'm going to pan out a little bit. Let's say that this is not enough quilting, right? Because for me, it never is enough quilting. I always want more. So how can we put some more quilting in here and have a path that seems practical and reasonable? So I'm going to use, I think, 2 different shapes. I think we're going to use this one. And it is going to go like this. So we're going to give a little arc from there to there, like that. And then when we get to the top, we're going to use something bigger, maybe 4. Let's use the 4. I have 2 different sizes, 3 different sizes here, so I'm playing around. This one is a little longer, so we need a little bit more to get the same depth for that. But we don't want it too deep, so what we'll do is we'll do the first arc, and then we'll put these in, and the next one, and this one in, and next arc. And we're only going to do half. We're going to do one side of this. Then when we're done at the top, we'll come back down to there, and then we can start working on the next one. Okay? All right, I'll show you what I mean. That's a lot of talking. We just need to sew, right? Starting right in the center there. And the piecing becomes the position agent, right, for where the needle's going to go, right there. And we said we're going to put this on, so there is the 1/4 inch right there, and try to line up, straighten the curve, keep this center line parallel to the other parallel lines in there. That was unhelpful. Okay, so just want to make sure I have good pressure on there. I want to be careful. Get right into that position. And now I'm going to use the bigger arc, and we're just going to go like this, and we're going to go out and back. Okay, so here to the corner, and we'll come back. And then same thing on this side. Again, trying to line it up, out to the corner, and back. Now, who knows what we're going to do next, right? We only have half of this little arc right there, but we have these two little wings right there. So we're just going to keep moving up like this. So we'll use the smaller one. Okay, making sure that he's got good pressure right there, and this is that 1/4 inch right there. So let me see if I can get him aligned properly. Right there. And then we'll do the bigger one. Okay, so this is again path development. So what I get out of this is I'm going to get a little bit of extra stitching, right? The little inserts inside the triangles are going to be a little stronger, and I can actually then do the back words to finish out that part. Okay, so we'll line this up. Got to keep my fingers out of the way on this one. Right to the top, and then darn it, I moved my ruler. So I'm going to take a few slow stitches and make sure I'm tracking back on my existing line and make an adjustment if I need to. I went crazy. I lost my mind. So let's put it on this side, and here we go. And we'll come back to the center. All right, so I don't have any grippies on this one, so I'm going to get my mini arc instead. It's the same shape. This is the 3-inch arc, and I'm just going to use my mini clamshell just because that one has the grips on it already. It'll give me the same relationship as the one that's already on there, but you can see I got a lot more grips on there, so that'll make it easier. I can tell it's having a little bit of a challenge. So 3 right there, and now we're going to just come back right to that center position right there. And then if I need to make maybe a stitch adjustment, I was a little bit off there, so I'm just going to fudge it. So right at the top there, if you see that you're not going to make it, you can just turn it a little bit to readjust it. And if, you know, if I've done 2 of these and they don't line up, then maybe I'll get my spacing gauge out and align them a little better. So now I've got a little bit more fill here in those triangles. And again, this, you're starting from that center position. So rather than try to sew all the way around that, I would jump over to this position right here and I would do that one. And you're doing the arc and then out and back, and then 1/2 of the arc, out and back, and then 1/2 of the arc. So each one of these 3 flying geese areas would be all quilted up at the same time as one unit, and then tacked off here at the bottom, and then jump to the next one and jump to the next one. All right, so I'm going to kind of scroll down a little bit, see if I see any questions. All right, and then we'll just tack this off because I think we are done with that one right there. And I'll tell you also, you know, certainly if somebody says, oh, well, couldn't you do it this way? What am I going to say? Go ahead. Sure. Why not? I'm not in charge of you. Go ahead. Do it however you think is best. If you have a path that you like better, then you should absolutely use that and make it your own. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and we'll move on to the next one. So I would put these same designs in each of these sections, and I'll just leave these triangles how they are because they're kind of plain. You could also put a smaller triangle, but I would have to jump every time. I'd have to make a little blue triangle, tack it off, and move to the next one. Oh, I'm way too lazy for that. So these, I can move forwards and I can do quite a bit of it at once. I prefer that. So we are going to shift over to one additional block like this that I've already ditched. And then we're going to show you a different center and a different fill for the triangles, and maybe also a pattern to use right in this area. Okay, so give me just 1 second to shift everything. We're going to just sort of go that way. Ready? Don't get dizzy. Close your eyes. All right, and I'm just going to adjust my camera a little bit so we have a nice view for you. Give me just 1 sec. All right, so this one's already ditched up, but we're going to put a different center. We're going to use another template. The one we'll use for the center is the 6-inch spiral, and that is the same one that is in, I guess we'll use this one. I lied. We're going to use this one. You can use the 6-inch spiral, but I think we'll just use this one. It's the same shape, right? And the other one has a foot hook, but if people don't have that, they can use this one. This little arrow is indicative of where the foot is going to go. So every time when we start our arc, the foot will be like this, and then we'll position the bottom wherever we want to align. So let's go ahead and do that now. And I'm just going to make a quick reference line so I know where the center is. So there you go. Now I have just a little reference mark that I can use as the center. See, not too much marking, right? With this, the quilt block itself gives us so many reference lines, so definitely very easy for us to use. Because we're going to sew out and back from this position, I don't really need to tack this, but I will move these threads out of the way. We're using the inside of the arc, which is just convenient because I can hold on the outside and then the sewing machine's on the inside, so my hand is not going to be in the way. So again, line up that little arrow, and what I want is I'm just going to twist it until I get the 1/4 inch right here. So there may be some slight variation with position. I don't care, it's fine. Now you're going to pivot, keep the arrow, and we're looking for this 1/4 inch right here. So, you know, if you want that precision, you can have it. Just use your spacing gauge and you'll be fine. Touch, and back to the center. Key here is I don't want to change that ruler at all until I am done with this arc. When you come out and you come back in, keep it positioned until you're done with that stitch area. So same thing, lining up the arrow on the needle and then looking for that space right there just to touch that little corner. It's like a little cutie pie, and back to the center. And then pivot and align. Okay, so right here, you're on that ruler sticker. And what I want here is I don't want to cut into that yellow. So I do want to make sure that my 1/4 inch is not going to have me stitch into that yellow. So if it's kind of cutting over just a little bit, I might push the ruler just a little bit more. Back to the center. And then again, moving these threads out of my way so that I can go ahead and keep stitching. Okay, lining that up and getting my 1/4 inch right there. Back to the center, and then aligning it back around this way. So I kind of have to get a little further in there so that I can get this lined right up where I want to. And I'm checking that 1/4 inch on that yellow, because I definitely do not want to be stitching into the outer block. I just want to get that little arc right along that peak right there. So this is very much using the piecing here as the guideline to fill in this design. So I'm looking behind me right there. I can shift this down just a little bit if I need to. This part, when you're sewing on your long arm, keep your hands free of your needle screw as you sew. That is very painful if you get yourself pinched under there, and definitely very uncomfortable. So here's our last one. We'll line it up right there, and we can kind of adjust a little bit to make sure that we're not stitching in to the yellow. Okay, so come out to the corner and back. And then I'll tack it off, and then we'll evaluate. So a couple tacking stitches right there, make sure we're secure. And then we can do this. So to me, this very much plays to the piecing of this shape right here. Really emphasizes it, captures the elongated movement right here and the little shortness right here, and makes it have a little bit of rotational movement. Love it. I think it looks so pretty. It's really a great matchup for this. So we always want to do something that is really emphasizing the piecing. Another simple option for this block would be literally to just echo this right here, like at a 1/2 inch or so. That's not complicated, and it's done really quickly, and yet it gives you just a little bit more quilting to fill in that center position. Okay, so very, very simple and a nice, easy way. Any arc, you can choose how deep the curvature is based on the arc. Like if I had something that was deeper but narrower, then you can also use that. So there's lots of different options that you have. This could also be done with a back to back, and that would give you maybe like a curvy line. As long as you're not going to sew outside of your boundary, you could do that. Okay, all right, so let's put in another fill right here. This one is perhaps a little bit trickier, so I really contemplated, can I teach it or not? We'll see. You guys can judge. You can tell me if it's good or not. All right, let me put some tools away, as we said, as I'm dropping things off of my ruler rack here. All right, so I have this very, very cool shape, right? This is the Spinifex number 11. One of the reasons I use it so much, and the reasons that I love it, is it has a long neck right here, which is kind of straight. So I can crop the design and shorten it if I need to, because this is a little elongated. So we're going to show you that, and we'll just maybe do one of these areas with it. Let me grab my, can I have that paper right there? Those stack of papers? Yeah. Thank you, sir. All right. I just want to make sure I'm not telling you a lie, right? Okay, so I just want to make sure I can do the design the way I think it's supposed to go. All right. One more. So let me show you what I did. I'll even share this with you. So this would be that spiral, but with an echo, right? And then this is just some straight lines, right? Inside of the Flying Geese, which shows a lot of movement. That's another option for you. And then this is what I was playing with the echo, but you can see that when I echoed it with my hand, it doesn't look the same as when I echoed it with the ruler, right? So you always got to sew it out to see what you're really going to get. So then here's our design that we already made. And then what I'm trying to do with this last one is kind of something like that right there. But we're going to make this shape go up to the top right there, and then we'll come back up, and then we'll do one. So there'll be double stitching on this side and then double stitching on that side in order to go back up to the top. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And then we'll decide if we need extra. I think we're not going to put any arcs in this one because I tried it and I think it looks maybe better without it. It looks a little cleaner. Okay, so let's go ahead and I think maybe we'll work right here. Okay, so what we're looking at is we can put this right here, but I think it's kind of full this way. So what my thought is that this straight line, I'll show you the line, right here at the top, we're going to line up the top right on this reference line, on the piecing right here, like this. And then at the bottom, if we have to pivot this to get the little neck to line up at a 1/4 inch, then that's what we'll do. So this is the anchor, and then we're going to just sew down, and we'll do one side as we go, and then we'll come back up to the other side. All right, cleanup time. Were there any questions, honey, before I get started on that?
No.
Okay.
Comes like the swirl, like the design. And
Okay, all right. So we said we're going to, I think we said we're going to line up this part, right? This way. Right, so we got to start down here, and that'll be our anchor for the design. Now remember what we said with your long arm, it's important that we have our needle up Oh, let me go ahead and put this in before we start tacking, right? Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to hold that top thread again, and we'll tag that in so we can get a little security. Okay, we're going to line that up, and notice right here, this is pretty big. I'm going to pivot this, and I definitely want to use my spacing gauge this time because I want to be able to come right in. This area right here, I don't want to sew into that blue, so let's get our needle anchored right here before we do anything, and then we'll measure right there because I want to get right down to the bottom. Perfect, and then just keep on going. Again, align it just like that. You want to get right to that, and if this looks too big right here, which I think it does a little bit, I'm just going to adjust it just a little bit so that it won't. Nobody will notice that if I just push up a little bit. I'm just sort of choking up on the ruler and pushing it up a little bit so I can get right down to that bottom section. Same thing right here, like that. Okay. Okay, I'm right down to the bottom, and now same thing. I'm going to just bring this side over, and I'm going to use the lines right there to make sure that I'm a 1/4 inch away. So as I sew in, and let's see if I'm going to have to go a little bit that way to get back up to that top spot. Right there. Remember, I don't want to sew into any of that on the bottom, so I'm going to try to be careful so that I don't. So just a little adjustment right there. Okay, and then we'll come back up. There we go. Can't see quite as well on the bottom. So right there, if I don't feel like I'm going to make it, I'll just adjust it a little bit so I can get right into the top. And now we just got some fun shapes in here, and we can also echo these. So, you know, if we wanted to just come back and maybe do it one more, we're at the top position right here, so we can just make this bottom position tip, right? Like that. And we'll come back up to the top position. Now we can do these as we go. We don't have to do them the way I did, which is coming down to the bottom. I think we have to cross over there. Okay, so I'll just do one of those so you can see the difference, and we'll just tack that off. And the reason that we need to do a workaround with this particular shape, if I use something, I can use something smaller, but then how do I connect to go to the next one? I'll show you what I mean. So if I put a mini Spinifex in there, like I like this shape, I think that looks kind of cool. I can put even a smaller one in and echo that. Let me grab that one. So I could do this smaller Spinifex, and this is going to fit. But then how would I get up to the next one? So if you're using them in pairs, you can have a really pretty echo, and I know that this one will fit. Literally, if I just put it right on there, I think we did it this way, right? Like that. You can see that that's going to fit inside. It's going to fit from here like that. So let's use that, and we'll just do one of these. We'll start down at this side. But the reason I didn't start with that is because that cannot connect because it's not tall enough to go to the seam allowance. So you'd have to have a way to get back to the seam allowance to get to the next piece. So if you use two of them, you can definitely match these together and use that other one to travel.
Kathleen asked if there's a smaller one to echo, and she said, oops, sorry.
Yeah. I think that's not going to sew very well, actually. It's actually kind of a good fit. I don't know why I didn't try that earlier. I did, but I didn't think it fit as well. But look at, it's actually like a perfect size almost. Ah, it's so tricky. Once I quilted it in, now it's smaller. I'll go ahead and take this off and just let you see that shape since we just put it in there. I'll have to rip some of the lines out if I want to use that, but See how that is a good shape. It actually fit perfectly in this space. This is supposed to be 2 inches tall, but because we've quilted it, it's actually shrunk up a little bit. And this spacing on this is actually about 1 3/4. So I think it's interesting that we were able to make it fit now that we've quilted all the ditch. So that'll be always something to check as well. Just because the quilt does draw up as we maneuver, we may be able to use something we didn't think that we could. All right, but that just shows you we can play around, we can echo. This one I think looks great. I think I'd be happy with that. If this one fit, I would love it, but I just didn't think that it would fit. Let's see if you guys can see those just a little bit clearer. Right, because we quilted this part up, this actually drew in enough that this would fit, because this is a 2-inch depth right here, and this template is 1 3/4. So kind of interesting to see how much the quilt is drawing up in that instance. Yeah, Heather, you're right. I see your comment. Would you use the smaller one first? I would, and then I would try to use that as the basis for the echo. We still would want to come up over the top, so we still would have a little bit of manipulation. This one should be bigger. Where's that small one again? We set it up, I think it's got to be like this. That's how we did it. That's why it doesn't fit. It's because it's upside down. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That would fit right inside the other one. That's why it didn't work out. I don't know. I'm a nut. What can I tell you? This one would actually fit right in there, and it wouldn't touch quite perfectly. But still, I think that these are really great. I like this Spinifex 11 because you get a lot of flexibility with this long, skinny part. So those are a few ideas that we have available just for this particular block. And of course, the ditching is very important, but you don't have to ditch this. You could literally just quilt straight lines, wavy lines all the way across and make it something that is not at all like the piecing. Or you could just maybe put some circles around this, right? Just do concentric circles coming out from there. It doesn't have to match the piecing, but for me, if I spend a lot of time piecing, I usually want that to show. Otherwise, I could just put a block in there and quilt it however I want. So, rules of thumb to help guesstimate shrinkage for quilting. Kathleen, that is such a good question, and I wish I had a better answer. I don't. I've had it be very erratic. The batting that's on here is very thick. This is Quilter's Dream, and I think it is the Request Loft. It's a thicker batting. It is cotton, 100% cotton, and the more that I quilt it, the more it's going to draw in. So the more quilting lines I put on there, the more it's going to shrink up because it's pulling itself in towards whatever that center portion is. So heavy, dense quilting, you're definitely going to want to have a little bit more batting and a little bit more backing as that quilt shrinks up. This is a very small piece, so I don't have a lot of excess. Right here on the edge, I've got, maybe 2 inches, and there's about 1 inch in between the two quilt pieces because this is one and then there's another one over there. Just to show you. See, that's about how much space between the two. Okay, so very difficult, but definitely if you want heavily quilted, dense micro quilting, etc., definitely you want more batting around the outside edges. The general rule of thumb for your long arm is 6 inches on each side, and on the bottom you can get away with less at the very top because you're going to baste it right along the top of your backing. But if you're doing something that's really small, you're not going to need as much. The big challenge for rulers, let's give a little tip. I'm going to bring the camera over to the side really quick so I can show you something. Okay, so whenever we're quilting with our rulers, I'm just going to scoot my long arm over here so you can see this. This is my ruler base right here. And what can happen if I'm not careful is that this clip that is right here and this clip right there, they can catch on this, right? So if they're right here next to the quilt and this table is fighting with this clip right here, that is really a pain in the butt. And so that's another reason to have a little bit more space right here so that your clip is out there and you can quilt all the way to the edge of the quilt without that interfering if you're using templates. So let's see what else we got here. Good questions, you guys. Let's see. Well, if you have a question, you want to put your last question in right now? And then I will just answer that, and then we're probably done for today. So this quilt has got, right in this area right here, we're using the rope template to do all of those little pink areas, and then there's just some simple arcing that's going to go right in here, just like a simple shallow arc that goes around. And then I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with this because this is a little bit of an unusual size. So if I get that, I will go ahead and put a picture up of that, but we are probably done with this particular project. This is called the Sherbet project. And if you want to go back to it and refer to it again, I will probably have this up on YouTube in about 2 months because we're putting these all on the second Sunday of the month. And one of them just dropped today, and one of the third block will be next month, and then I think in September you'll see this one. So, but it's always going to be available right here on the Sew Steady page. So if you need it, there it is for you. Alrighty. Anyway, I wanted to mention one last thing. I'm going to put up one other item, so I hope you don't mind. This is going to be available only for a limited time, so I want to make sure people know about it. Give me 1 second to get my trunk show up. I think a lot of you guys know that we do some, education for many different people. This particular one was a class that we just did recently, and it's on the Sew Show, and it's only going to be available for about a month. And it's piecing and quilting. So you can see there's some of the quilting done on this one, and then this is another one that has some of the quilting done right there with the wavy lines. Still needs to be finished, but if you're interested in checking that out, that's only going to be available for a limited time. So I have posted the link to that on my YouTube community page. So if you're interested in that, you can find the link there. You can go to Sew Show, and I believe that they have it there as well. And that's just for the next month. So there's a couple different templates that were used with that, but also the patchwork tools for Sew Steady were used in that. The corner setting triangle for larger corner square units was used to make all of these pretty blocks. So if you have an interest in that, that's just an idea for you. And thank you guys so much for being here today. I hope you have a terrific weekend. Happy quilting. Enjoy. Take care, you guys. I'll go back and check all the questions later and try to respond to anybody that had some questions that were not answered. Okay? Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.